It says we went to war on false pretenses. And yet no heads have rolled, nobody's resigned, nobody's responsible. You know, I think the buck's got to stop somewhere, and in this case it goes right to the top.
One question tonight, can Scarlett survive as the new head of MI6? He's made huge mistakes, but he's also one of the most brilliant case officers of his generation. The man, ironically, who ran Gordievsky inside the KGB.
Well, you know, Gordievsky was captured by the KGB and then freed by MI6 in a brilliant operation organised by, guess who? Step forward, John Scarlett. He has had a stellar career, but I think the fact is that his reputation has taken a huge knock with this, with the perception that he just got a little bit too close to his political masters.
Tom Bradby, thank you. Just before this broadcast began tonight, I spoke to Dr. John Reed, who was a member of the War Cabinet which saw those intelligence documents. A close study of the Butler report showed it as a devastating indictment of the way the government made the case for war on Iraq. Yet, surprisingly, no one seems ready to make an unqualified apology.
Well, that's because it wasn't a devastating indictment of anything. The key finding here, Trevor, in which people will be interested, was the confirmation that the Prime Minister, the politicians and the intelligence services acted throughout with integrity and in good faith. That is a central question. It has now been confirmed that that was the case by no less than 4 independent inquiries. The second question that people will be interested in, apart from whether we acted in good faith, is did any deficiencies in intelligence materially alter the nature of the threat? Even if there were mistakes here or there, was there a significant change from the perception of the threat, which the whole of the United Nations Security Council deemed to be a threat about 6 months prior to the war? And the answer to that is no, there was no material change in that either. So in the 2 central questions, in a very balanced report, a very comprehensive report, it confirms both good faith and the existence of a threat.
But, I mean, that's a rather glib explanation, and I take your point about good faith. But you went to war on the basis that Saddam possessed and was ready to deploy weapons of mass destruction. He didn't. We were misled. You misled the country. We went to war on a false premise.
Well, it is not a glib explanation, actually. It is a more accurate reflection of the balanced report of Lord Butler, if I may say so, than the questions you're asking. It does not say we went to war having misled the country. Indeed, it says exactly the opposite of that. It says that there was good faith.
But there were no weapons.
Trevor, the Butler report is the judgment here, with great respect, not your opinion. And the Butler report says that there's no pressure on the security services to do other than tell the truth. It says that the politicians believed the reports that we received and conveyed them to the nation in the way in which we perceived them and believed them. There was no attempt to mislead, and all of those questions, the Butler report gave a report which was exactly the opposite of what you're suggesting.
Dr. John Reed. Now let's return to Nick Robinson at the end of another hectic political day. Nick, it's clear from what the report says that the intelligence services and the government got it badly wrong. How, in that case, did Lord Butler come to the view that nobody was to blame?
I think he wasn't saying so much that no one individual was to blame, but everyone was to blame, Trevor. Everyone around the Prime Minister and in the intelligence services, at least at the top table of the intelligence services. Of course, some sceptical weapons experts were excluded from seeing that intelligence. We learned today too that the Cabinet, many of them, never got to see the paperwork, never got to take part in full and proper discussion about this policy. But those around the top table, Lord Butler says they all got it wrong.
Nick, when the contents of this report are totally digested, might the real casualty in all this be the bond of trust between Tony Blair, Prime Minister, and the British people?
That, of course, is what they're so desperate about, isn't it? You could hear it in John Reed's voice. You could hear it in his answers as he spoke to you there. There's a test of that, of course, in 2 by-elections tomorrow and in opinion polls to come too. There's one other question, though, Trevor, and one senior cabinet minister put it to me this way. Were we right that containing Saddam wasn't working? Robin Cook didn't think so, neither did Bill Clinton. And this report said today that the UN weapons inspectors were being more effective than the government allowed, and that even when the evidence didn't turn up in Iraq, they didn't reassess their policy of heading towards military action. That might be a question for the historians. It might be a question for the ballot box too.
Nick Robinson, thank you. Well, whatever the political impact of the report here, in Iraq, the violence and the killing continued today. 11 people were killed and at least 30 others wounded when a car bomb exploded in the capital, Baghdad. It was the worst attack since the new Iraqi government was sworn in a fortnight ago. And in the northern city of Mosul, the governor and 2 bodyguards were killed when their convoy was attacked by grenades. There's more to come on the ITV News tonight, including Green drops out of the M&S takeover stakes, but what now for the store? And will Tiger be the one burning bright at Troon? We look ahead to the Open. Right after the break.
This is the lounge. This is the family room. Oak floorboards throughout. Antique floorboards throughout. Taps in a neoclassical design. You know what? You'd hate it.
Welcome back. The battle for Marks & Spencer ended tonight. The takeover bid is off. The billionaire retailer Philip Green finally abandoned his £9 billion offer after the shareholders' annual general meeting seemed less than impressed by his offer today. Our business editor Caroline Kerr joins us now. Caroline, Philip Green appeared terribly desperate to take over at Marks. Why has he pulled out?
Well, I think in the last couple of days, there's no doubt when I've spoken to him, Philip Green has been becoming increasingly frustrated with the board of Marks & Spencer. Tonight, in a statement, he said that he'd abandoned his bid because the Marks & Spencer's board was unwilling to show him the books, and he clearly lost faith in his ability to persuade them to change their minds. He says that he had the support of 34% of shareholders, but I think there's no doubt about it. He lost confidence in his ability to win enough shareholders over, enough shareholders willing to persuade the board that he was the man to do the job. And I think it's no coincidence either that this all happened on the day of Marks & Spencer's annual general meeting, which was a kind of gathering of the most polite, respectable and mature audience of Middle England. And Middle England gave a very clear message to Philip Green. They said, we do not want the upstart from Arcadia to take over this venerable British institution. So I think that was music to the ears of Stuart Rose. It may perhaps have been the final straw for Philip Green.
And what now for the store?
Well, Stuart Rose laid out his plans for the future. He said he was going to focus on the core customer, get back to basics. He stressed that he had a great new team in place. Maybe that sounds a bit familiar. Well, that's because Luc van der Velde said all the same things just a few years ago. It now remains to be seen whether he can turn this company round. The pressure is certainly on him. He's going to have a shot at it. But remember, shareholders were offered £4 a share. They rejected it in favour of Stuart Rose. He's got to prove himself now.
Caroline Kerr, thank you. The superbug scandal in our hospitals is even worse than we thought, with 14 people dying every day from MRSA. The figures in a report by the National Audit Office. It says the infection has reached alarming levels and condemns the health service for failing to protect patients. The European Commission announced plans today to scrap Britain's £2 billion EU rebate. If dropped, the UK payments into the European kitty would nearly double, making Britain the biggest EU contributor. 45 people have been arrested in a series of child pornography raids in Greater Manchester. Police are now examining computers seized this morning when more than 500 officers swooped on 50 homes. Those arrested are being questioned on suspicion of accessing indecent images of children on the internet. And British soldiers on the ground and in the air, the Red Arrows, took part for the first time in France's National Bastille Day parade in Paris. They were invited to join the celebrations to mark 100 years of the Entente Cordiale. And now, with tonight's sport, here's Felicity Barr.
Trevor, thank you. It is the most open for years. Golf's oldest and most prestigious tournament begins at Royal Troon tomorrow. And for the first time in 7 years, Tiger Woods isn't the favourite to lift the coveted claret jug, which he won 4 years ago. Instead, it's South African Ernie Els, himself a former winner. The biggest cheers, though, will be for local hero Colin Montgomerie. From Troon, Martin Geisler reports.
Another summer and another great British course plays host to the golf circus. For the next 4 days, the eyes of the sporting world will be on Royal Troon. The Open is the championship the players themselves value more than any other. The major, they call it. And this is what it's all about, the famous claret jug, one of the most prestigious trophies in world sport. For most of the golfers here, lifting this on Sunday night would cap a lifetime's hard work. And then, of course, there are those who have come to Troon to win it back. Tiger Woods has won it before, obviously. He's won almost everything this sport has to offer. But his recent statistics might surprise you. He hasn't won a stroke play championship this year. It's 2 years since he picked up one of golf's 4 majors. And here at Troon, he's not the favourite. The first time for 7 years the bookies have fancied someone else. But his claws are still sharp.
The wins will take care of themselves if you strike the ball and make putts and do the things that you know you can do. And if you keep working on it, it will come around.
According to the odds, it's South African Ernie Els who'll write his name into the golf history books here.
Obviously the bookies look at previous results and stuff like that, so that's their deal, it's not my deal. I'm here to play golf and not to bet.
This is Colin Montgomerie's home course. Given that and all his recent personal problems, there could be no more popular winner.
The support will be extreme, which would be fantastic for me, and around the course I just hope I can perform to the support that I'm given.
So the players are ready, the place is ready, and the prize is ready. All we need now is a winner, the 133rd name to be engraved onto this famous trophy. Martin Geisler, ITV News, Troon.
Appropriately on Bastille Day, a Frenchman was crowned King of the Mountains after the latest stage of the Tour de France. Richard Virenque crossed the line 5 minutes clear of the pack. Today's gruelling 237-kilometre climb was the longest stage of the race. Arsenal are denying claims by Real Madrid. The Spanish club are preparing a £30 million bid for Patrick Vieira. The midfielder's agent says there's no truth in reports he'll be leaving Highbury. And football's most famous referee, Pierluigi Collina, was today awarded an honorary degree from Hull University. Collina's being linked with a move to Premiership refereeing after he recently blew the whistle on his international career. That's all of tonight's sport. Trevor.
Felicity, thank you. I'm back in a few minutes with a verdict on tomorrow's newspapers on the Butler Report. But let's link up first with our ITV newsrooms around the country to find out what's been happening where you are tonight.
Hello, good evening. I'm Owen Thomas. This is London Tonight. 200 police officers are targeting King's Cross Station and surrounding streets in a blitz on crime and antisocial behaviour. The operation, codenamed Londinium, will cover trains and platforms